Level up podcast, Level Up with Shay. We're back here with another famous, I'm gonna say famous, he doesn't think he is, but I think he's famous. Retired athletic director. He's from Florida. And so this platform has allowed us to meet so many different people, but we're able to also bring people on that I consider friends, but that also have helped me along in this journey. So Jake is one of those people who, when we were in COVID, I can say for sure he was the only one I know that was talking to people and talking to us as athletic directors. So he had a podcast. I was able to be on his podcast. He has a book, which we're going to talk about the books, not just books that he has, and that I was actually able to be in one of those books. So he's helped so many athletic directors, so many leaders in the athletic realm. He still is very vibrant and busy right now. So we're going to just hear from Jake a little bit. So, Jake, if you want to tell us five important points about you as you introduce yourself, what are those five things that we should know about you?
Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, first of all, Shay, thanks so much. So you're right. You and I connected the first season we did the podcast. I
Mhm.
am going to toss out there. I was not the first to start an AD podcast. There were a couple others ahead of me, actually one in particular, um, Josh Matthews and Don Baker,
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah.
hanging with the AD podcast. They had me on their
Right.
podcast, and I go, "Hey, this is pretty cool. I think I could do it." And I basically stole their formula. But five things about me that I
About
want people
you.
to know me. Okay. Um, well, I guess number one, I was very fortunate to not have to work a day in my life as an athletic director. My dad was a contractor growing up. My older brothers and I was the youngest boy. We got to work for my dad and I hated every second of it. I literally just hated it. I was at that point in my life, I was that, you know, annoying teenager. But my dad, he loved everything about it, designing and building the construction. And I remember one day he told me, I was probably griping on the job site. He goes, Jake, the secret to happiness is finding something that you love to do
Mhm.
and then convincing somebody else to pay you to do that. And I found that with coaching and teaching and eventually becoming an AD. I loved what I was doing. Were there some challenges? Of course. But I was very fortunate. So find something that you love to do. Um, Secondly, and probably thirdly, I'm going to tie two and three together, is um, find people that you enjoy doing that with. And I was very fortunate. You know, my wife of we just celebrated. Well, I celebrated. She probably endured. 42 years of being together.
Good.
She's a Hall of Fame coach herself, and so she knew, the challenges and the time demands. But at the same time, she did a great job of, raising three kids while I was still at the school, at a football practice or watching a volleyball game as the AD. So, family, it's just so important. But at the same time, your work family, your boss, your principal, your superintendent, the coaches you work with, the teachers, make sure that you celebrate them and allow them to see, the parts of you that deserve to be celebrating. I'm, very, this, Shay. I'm type A, I'm go, go, go. But try to acknowledge those people that are important in your life. Um, I guess number four, um, be willing to admit that you don't know everything. When I was younger, I was reluctant to do that. I didn't want to appear like I was a dope, that I didn't know what I was doing. And of course, I was a dope because, I didn't go to people for help. So, um, reach out, listen to your those wise people, those veterans. The times that I've spent with you, and I'm a lot older than you, Shay. You're just a kid. Uh, I've learned something just about every time you and I have sat down and talked about, let's say the business or the workings of an
Oh, right.
AD. And that's what I've tried to do, late in my career and now into retirement, is listen to other people and take those good ideas. And I guess Lastly, and it might be a repeat, but make sure you're having fun. Okay, it's great to get paid for what we do. If you're in for the money, you're a dope. But make sure you're having fun with your job, having fun with your family, having fun yourself. There's so many unhappy people out there. They hate their job, they hate their life. I feel for them. Find something that you love to do and then have fun. Did I do okay with that?
You did awesome because now it's going to lead us to the next thing. So, and we have those five things about who you are and what makes up Jake. We also can say that you already mentioned about being a retired AD, being in a high school, you've been a coach, of course, you're a dad, you're a granddad, you are a husband, you're definitely a father, probably to many student athletes that still come back to you to this day, either help you coach, or help you officiate. Maybe you see them out somewhere, or just sending you a note, which is also a highlight, I think, for any coach, definitely for me to see my student athletes who I coach, send me something on Facebook or IG or whatever, or they say, "Hey, coach, how you doing?" Or just you see them out somewhere. It's so gratifying to be able to do that. So I'm sure you're proud of that as well. And so as we shift into your just a little bit about your background, you were in athletics and you were an athletic director. Now you're actually officiating track. So how do you feel that being in the realm of a teacher, a coach, an athletic director, now you get to officiate and see some things that you were, dealing with as an athletic director. How do you think being an athletic leader has molded you to mold other young people?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, you're absolutely right. It is so very gratifying to, whether it's an email or a Facebook comment or running into them in person. Last year at the state high school track meet here in Florida, I was working as an official, and this young man comes up, and I knew it right away. He was a kid who'd ran track and played football for me, back in the day. He's got his own kids now and his wife. Hey, coach, great to see you. Thanks for everything you did. And when I get those, I really do feel good. But I also I think, boy, what about this kid that I was an old school coach, particularly in football, and I just think about those kids that, hey, maybe they only played as a freshman and didn't come back as a sophomore because, I didn't find a way to connect with them better. So that's my advice again to younger coaches is, yeah, be a coach and have expectations, hold them accountable, but, don't be that old school coach. Be tough, but also be understanding. Um, I guess now as an AD, I stopped refereeing basketball. I refereed high school basketball, boys and girls for years. I still officiate high school and college track and field. It's great to stay connected because you get, as an official, you're out there with student athletes, with
Right.
coaches, sometimes even parents,
Yeah.
yelling. So it's all great. I love it. And as a coach, another message I share as a younger coach, I was not always the best example of, promoting great sportsmanship. Come on, ref, you're killing us. Um, and some of my old coaching colleagues from a long, long, long time ago, before I became an AD, they'll say, "You're a referee?" But I enjoy it. As you know, there's a tremendous shortage of
Yeah.
officials in
Hmm.
the U.S. these days. We have to do a better job. We as leaders, as ADs, as coaches, as ADs, we have to hold our coaches accountable because I
Right.
think it starts with the coach. Um, well, let's use basketball as an example. You know that sometime during the game, there's
Hmm.
just going to be a horrible call or non-call. It's going to
Right.
go against you. How that
Hmm.
coach reacts in that moment, that sets the tone for everybody in the gym. If the
Absolutely.
coach goes ballistic, the crowd, the
Hmm.
going to do the same thing. But if that coach just, okay, that's the call. Let's get back on defense or let's do this, whatever it is. Everybody in the gym is going to go, well, geez, coach didn't go crazy. It must be
Hmm.
okay. So I think we as ADs, we need to hold our coaches a little bit more accountable. And I was blessed with great coaches. Our coaches did a wonderful job. And as an official, I wasn't, I would have a conversation with a basketball coach throughout the game. Hey, what did you see on that call? Or why did you call that? When it was appropriate, I would have that conversation. But
Right,
I wasn't going to, let a coach, berate me or berate my partner. And I certainly wasn't going to let an assistant coach do that. I'd tell that head coach, you tell that assistant to sit down or you're out of here. But it all comes down to leadership.
yeah,
Let's respect the game. Let's respect the officials. They're doing a job. That official doesn't come up to you and, hey, coach, nice call on that last play on offense. Your kid threw up an air ball. They're not complaining about your coaching
right,
decisions. Why? Why would you complain about the official's decision? That's their job. They're hired to
right.
referee as they see it. Okay, so that's my 2 cents on maybe it was about 6 cents on
No, it's okay.
officiating.
It's okay. Now, as we transition from the coaching, the teaching, because you taught PE, I'm going to the officiating now as well, to being that leader in athletics that people look up to. So you have a couple books that you've written, you've composed with yourself and some other athletic directors. Tell us about those books, the name of those, so that someone listening or another athletic leader can actually maybe look up some of those books.
Oh gosh, it's a book signing without the signing. I love it. Um, well, the podcast, as you know, we interview athletic directors and coaches, and one of the segments we call the Athletic Director's Toolbox. What are
Mhm,
3 tips or tools that you would give a brand new AD? And over the first season of the podcast, I think we're in season 5 now.
mhm.
Um, we I collected those tools. I kept them in a spreadsheet. And one of my good friends, Mike Elson from Tennessee, said one day, Jake, you should share the collection of tools. What's the most popular tool? And so he and I, along with Lisa Langston, former
Oh,
NIAAA president, the 3 of us did a podcast where we shared the top 20 tools that had been submitted up to that time. At the end of the podcast, Mike goes, Jake, this would be a great book. And I go, you think so? And that was the start of our toolbox book. So
cool.
currently, there are 3 editions. The format is the same. We call it the AD Toolbox, the top 20 tools for success. And I certainly didn't write it, compose it myself. I simply took the toolbox suggestions from great ADs like you and others and just kept track of how frequently they came up. And I found it was fun for me to collect the information and ask the questions, but it's
Right.
so much fun for me to hear from an AD who says, I wanted to become an AD, but I didn't have any experience, and I got your book, and it was just so helpful. I still have it today.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I'm not trying to brag, but I've just heard that so many times.
Awesome.
Um, and we're continuing to add to the toolbox. We're still doing interviews, and the 4th edition of the toolbox book will be coming out probably in time for the next national conference. We've had a couple of other books. One of my favorites, it's called All-Star Athletic Director.
Okay.
I hate the title, but I love the book. It featured 10 women athletic directors, all from the state of Florida. And each of these 10 we interviewed for the podcast, and then we transcribed their entire conversation. They each did 3 segments, and some of them were on leadership, some were on sportsmanship, some were on, things they do at their school. And it was
Mhm.
big public school ADs, small private. We had faith-based schools. We had some county ADs involved. But it was just great to have these 10 women administrators
Mhm.
share to their heart. It's called All Star AD. That's also on Amazon. And then recently, we did a book called Small School AD. We featured 35 athletic directors, men and women from the United States, even a couple of international ADs that were from smaller schools. And the challenges that some small schools face. They don't have all the resources that maybe
Right.
a big school has. But that was a fun book to do. They're all $9.99. They're all on Amazon. If you're a county like to buy some um, for the ADs in your conference, don't buy them off Amazon. Call me. I'll give you a great deal. I think I've given away probably 500 books over the course of the years, and I enjoy doing it because if I give away a book, maybe they'll enjoy it and they'll buy one of the other books that are out there. So those are the books, and it's been fun. And as I say, I'm going to keep doing the interviews until people stop listening.
Well, that's awesome. And doing the books, obviously, as you mentioned, you have the women now, all women, you have the middle school book, and you have some of the variations, additions to the toolbox. I was in your first one that you had. It was an honor to be there because, like I said, you was the first person who invited me to be on your podcast right during COVID time, and then coming up with the book, which was awesome. But before, well, after that, I would say, and more importantly, is that you're constantly sharing with others because you have helped me numerous times to give books away to colleagues, but also at conferences that I may attend or that I speak at. I try to take something every time I speak at a conference, and if there's a workshop that I do, somebody invite me to come and be a speaker of any sort. I try to take a gift. I learned that from someone. To take a gift to everything that you do, whether it is one person gets something, whether it's the oldest person, youngest person, first person sat down, something. Somebody's always getting something and every time that I speak or anytime I have an engagement to speak out. Even if I do something with students, I always take something with me because I learned that from someone that was mentoring me. And with doing that, you also are always giving back. You're always trying to help, but let alone just trying to help, you have the tools and others are giving you those tools. I do understand that too, but you're also able to help. And you actually speak at different conferences and state organizations as well, and being able to share your knowledge and information with people, which is so amazing. So, what did you think? Because I know you were given the help to push to do the books. Do you feel that having these tools or tools in the toolbox has helped some ADs in general? Do you feel like it's been helpful with the podcast and things of that nature as a way to connect?
Well, first of all, I want to talk about how you also give. You were on, I asked you to be on our first season when we were doing the podcast. I came across your profile on LinkedIn, teacher, coach, AD, and I go, absolutely. Because again, that's what I do. I do you on. But since then, you've come back on several times and done a number of segments on our Wednesday Wisdom. And one of our most frequently downloaded episodes, we've done over 1,000 different recordings between our 600 plus interviews and our Wednesday Wisdoms and our Tech Tuesdays. But one of our more frequently downloaded episodes is the one that you, Lancaster, and John Scromolo, two ADs here in Florida, recorded. I'm going to think that was maybe season two, where we had the three of you on
Um,
to talk about some best practices for hiring. So again, you continue to give back, even though you're not on the podcast, that information is out there and people are downloading it. Um, that anecdote that I just shared about the young man, he was an aspiring AD, but he bought the books or came across the podcast. He said, I probably downloaded the first three seasons, in one night or something. Um, you know, it's hard to describe uh, re how rewarding, I guess, that makes me feel. I know that it's not me. I'm just the
right.
guy asking the questions. But the people that come on the podcast, like you, that share their wisdom and their best practices, I'm a pretty good AD. I go. I'm not trying to be self-deprecating here, but
Yeah.
it's the guests that we have on that I think make it a valuable resource. And I tell everybody all the time. The books are $9.99, but you
Right.
don't even have to buy the book. You get it all for free just by going to Spotify and listening to the podcast episodes. So it's
Right.
it's all out
Right.
there. It's free, and I know that we're providing a service, and
Right.
that makes me feel good. I'm not an AD anymore. I'm retired, but I
Yeah.
still think we're contributing in our own way.
Yeah. Right. 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 And I think too that some people basically, feel that as an athletic director or leader, athletic leader, whatever the word is, some of them are athletic directors, some I'm a director of student activity, some people are, athletic director and coach, some people are teacher and, athletic director, what have you, whatever role they're in. I think that sometimes we don't always understand that we need and can get help from other people, right? We don't have to reinvent that wheel. We just have to go use that wheel and just say, hey, let me ask for some help here. And somebody has something that we're doing. So, as you were saying about people downloading the podcast, downloading the episodes, getting the books off Amazon, which are $9.99, they're getting those. But that's a resource right there that people can use, even if they don't want to ask someone else, because I think we all in some shape, form, or fashion, steal from others, right? We steal, right? It's not we borrow. Let's say we borrow. We borrow from other people, but we borrow information that's also going to help us be successful. And someone in the job, maybe first, second, third year, cannot be afraid to ask for help because the help is out there, right? And they just have to know that they need the help. And it's unfortunate that people don't ask for help sometimes because I know even just being younger in the profession, I had mentors who helped me. One was Bill Lawson, he was in Petersburg, but I also had one, Kassan Brown, was actually in my city at the time. The two of them together really helped to mold and guide me. And then now, as they call it, pay it forward, right? So I'm able to help other people because one of those individuals, Lawson, he's in Petersburg High School, Petersburg, Virginia. I know there's Petersburg, Florida, but he's in Petersburg, Virginia, and he's still my friend. We're really good friends. We trade stuff all the time. The other gentleman who was my mentor is just coaching, so he's not an athletic director now. So I'm now able to help other people as much as I can. I feel like if someone gave that opportunity to me, then I'm able to give and share that opportunity. So thank you for doing what you do to bring athletic directors together, but also to have an opportunity to give them a platform to speak to another audience other than just their coaches if they're not athletic director. Because sometimes your own coaches don't feel like you know anything. You know what I mean? And we should we should be willing to help other people just as we try to help them because your coaches are the first line of defense, sort of, kind of, to who you are as a leader. Because your parents, they're going to go beside with their child and that coach. So that coach is typically your first line of defense when it comes to leadership and guiding them in the right direction. I feel so. Thank you for what you do, right? I really, really appreciate that. So I'm gonna ask you one or two more questions, but so the other thing that I want to ask you about is that balancing being retired AD and the full-time AD, right? And you said that you felt like you did the job as much as you could, but also you did it long where you enjoyed what you did and what you were doing, right? So what would be two things that you would tell someone who is thinking about being an athletic director or athletic leader, or who has up to maybe 3 years of experience about being intentional, about loving the job, and about finding some time to themselves because the job is very, very busy at different times, right? So, someone aspiring to be an athletic director, and then someone maybe have 3 years or less. What would you, just two things that you would suggest to them about being intentional, whether it's finding time for themselves or whether it's just being able to survive in the job day to day.
Well, I guess we always hear, if we can keep an athletic director, alive through those first 3 years, we got a pretty
Yeah,
good chance of
right. You
of
might
of,
make it
of
to
hanging
5.
on to them. I guess in no particular order,
Mhm.
you really need to understand as best you can what the job entails going in. It is a demanding job. There's no question. There's going to be some late nights. There's going to be some weekends. And I was fortunate through most of my AD career. I was either a full-time AD
Okay.
or at one of the schools here in Florida, I was the head football coach and the AD, and I think I taught two or three weightlifting courses. Uh, so I had a busy schedule, but I had an assistant AD who was in the building. We had great organizational support, and that's leads me to that next question: is make sure that you have had that discussion with your principal, or if you're a private school, your head of school, whoever, about, hey, this is the job of AD, and it's if you're being asked to be the AD and teach 5 out of 6 periods during the day and be a head coach and an assistant in a second sport, that's going to be a recipe for failure. Okay.
Right.
The AD needs time to do their job, and you need some time away to take care of yourself. So
Right.
make sure your principal, your boss, understands how much time you are putting into that job each day. I just told this story the other day. I had a great boss at my final stop at the McClay School in Tallahassee. Just a great boss. And we had a late night the night before,
Mhm.
and I made a conscious decision. I'm not going in at 7:30. I'm going in like I always do. I'm going to be there at 8:30. My calendar was clear. Everything was good. I told the office, hey, I'm not coming in until 8:30. So as I pull up in the parking lot and I'm walking to my office, here's my boss walking, right toward me. And I said, hey, I'm sorry, I'm coming in late. He goes, whoa, what are you talking about? He goes, I know I'm getting my money's worth out of you from 3:30 beyond. Okay. I'm not worried about where you're at 8 a.m. And it was just, I knew that, but it was great to hear that. But
Yeah.
sometimes your principal doesn't understand. Maybe
Mhm.
they're new as a principal, and maybe they have no background at all in athletics. It used to be you were a successful coach, you became
Oh,
the
right.
AD, then you became the principal.
Principal,
Well,
right.
now people are becoming principals, and that's fine, but
Mhm.
they just have no understanding of athletics. So as an AD, it's your job to make sure your principal understands, you know, the scope of your duties as an AD. And then you need to be intentional about carving out time for your own, wherever you want to call it,
Yeah.
self-care, your mental health, your family health, um, and recruit help from your department. You have a young coach, a veteran coach, you have coaches that are just itching for
To do
more
something.
opportunity. Create a position, get your principal's support for this. We would call them site managers. They were just coaches. And sometimes I was still there as the AD. Sometimes I might be in the gym because we had a big basketball game, and I had a site manager out at the soccer game. Just we had walkie talkies, but they were the person in charge. If they needed me, they'd call me. So create those opportunities for your coach, for your coaches, for their growth, for your own sanity, and for the sake of your program.
Yeah,
Who knows what gifts that site manager coach is going to bring to the table that's going to help you and help your students, help your coaches, et cetera.
correct. And that's so important. The giving back, the bringing up, the paying it forward, all of those things that you talked about is so important because we don't always know everything, but the tools that we have that we can give to somebody else are important. Just like you said about taking care of yourself or the self-care piece, because that's also important, or mental health, whatever word we're using today to describe that. But definitely working with your administrator, your principal, to make sure that they understand and know your role. I'm in a great situation. My principal basically knows she loves athletics, but she also allows me to do my job, right? And that's important when they allow you to run the job, do the business, and basically tell me what I need to do or where I need to be if there's something going on. And so I love that so much with her that I'm able to enjoy that as well. Like you said, with your last stop, your administrator understanding that was probably the biggest thing for you and understanding of what your job was. So, all right, last question. You're 21 years old. Of course, you barely passed that now, but you're 21 years old. What would Jake have told himself that he didn't know then?
Oh my goodness, there are just so many.
One thing,
Uh,
maybe two.
there's so many things. Um, I share this when I get to speak to coaches and ADs and even parents is um, learn and embrace the value of listening. Okay.
Okay.
Just listen to others, listen to those that are older and wiser.
Right.
Listen to your spouse, listen to your kids, listen to your students, listen to your coaches, but just the value of listening.
Yeah.
Once I learned to shut up and listen. It allowed me to get closer to people, to get closer
Right.
to, let's say, a challenging situation. If a parent came in and they were hot, boy, I was right there with them. But learning to just shut up and listen is probably the biggest accomplishment of my career.
Awesome. I like that. And the listening piece right now for the young people, oh my God, is important because there's so many things that takes their mind away from having those conversations that are verbal, not the message conversation or the Facebook or the IG. They don't, most of them are not on Facebook, but the IG or the TikTok message, being able to verbalize, to listen and to talk and respond. So that is awesome. I love that. Listen first, or being able to listen. I love that. So, 19 years old, Jake would have told himself, listen, shut up and listen, please. Just listen a little bit. But don't be so hot-headed. So, but thank you so much for joining us. Again, I appreciate everything that you've done for me, everything you've done to open up athletics to another rim for all the athletic directors that you come in contact with. Meeting you at the national conference or seeing you at the national conference is always good. It's always a great time there because you meet so many people from across everywhere that you don't even know that you are going to come in contact with. So it's also amazing. So thank you so much for all that you do for those who or whom you work with, but also just being a part of our lives as someone who has a lot of tools in his toolbox himself. So thank you so much for joining us and tell them how they can get in contact with you if they want to have you come and speak or they want to get a book, of course, on Amazon. But tell us about how they can connect with you.
The easiest way, I'm old school. I'm an email guy. My email, it's very easy. It's all one word, Jake's touchdown at gmail.com. Jake's touchdown is also my Twitter handle. And
Okay.
if you want to call me, I'm not afraid to give out my cell phone. That's area code 305-218-1325. Love to connect with others. And, if there's any way I can help out, please reach out. I'd love to chat with you.
Jake's touchdown is easy. That's easy on Twitter and on IG, and then with email as well. And then also just finding you obviously on the podcast. What's the name of the podcast?
The podcast, very boring title. It's called The Educational AD Podcast. The Educational AD Podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple, and most of the major podcast carriers.
Okay, cool. So you all can connect with Jake. He's definitely a great resource. He's definitely a great speaker for your professional development or for your organization. So if you're looking for somebody to help you and you're looking for somebody to help you level up, as we are right here, Jake is a great resource. So thank you so much, Jake, for joining us. I really, really appreciate it. And continue to do great things to help us out. We really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thanks for having me on. Always great to see you at the national conference. And again, this year at the Nationals, what did you do? As soon as we saw each other, you introduced me to about 5 or 6 people in the
Yeah,
room as potential new guests. So
absolutely.
thanks for all that
You're
you do,
welcome.
Shay.
You're
You're
welcome.
definitely a leader in our profession.
Thank you so much.